Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. This is Kathleen Wells, your host. I'm glad to be here. I was just driving into the station. Hillary Clinton was on with Meet the Press, Chuck Todd. I'm surprised that she was actually on his program. How does Hillary have any credibility whatsoever? Oh, I still hear the music in my ear. Can we hear it? Or no? Okay, I'm surprised that Hillary has any credibility, right? In fact, I was just reading this report in Political. It says that the Federal Elections Commission has agreed to fine over $100,000 against the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign over an investigation into alleged misreporting of spending related to the now infamous Steele dossier. How does she have any credibility? You see, this is what happens. This is what these folks in the media and the establishment do. They just completely ignore anything that is distasteful, anything that shows them caught with their hand in the cookie jar, like the Hunter Biden business, right? That was just completely ignored during this 2016 campaign. In fact, was it the 2016 campaign? No, the 2020 campaign. In fact, it was... New York Post was the only news outlet. New York Post is the oldest newspaper because it was founded by who? Not Thomas Jefferson, not Andrew Jackson, but what was the other guy's name? Was it Alexander Hamilton? I think, yeah. So that's the oldest newspaper in America, the New York Post. The New York Post reported in the 2020 campaign that Hunter Biden and the Biden family, Bubalinsky was his partner, and the big guy, Joe Biden. Hunter Biden has been involved with securing deals based on being the son of Joe Biden for decades. He's made money this way. And there were, in fact, this was reported in the New York Post, how many intelligence agents and agencies reported that information during the 2020 campaign was Russian disinformation. And so now, after Biden is in office and he's destroying America, they come out with it. And this is why the news, and that includes Washington Journal, which I watch every morning. I don't know, David Lamb, is that his name, David Lamb? Brian Lamb. Brian Lamb started Washington Journal. That Washington Journal on C-SPAN has no credibility whatsoever. They merely read from the New York Times and the Washington Post and follow the establishment narrative. They never offer a different point of view. Even this morning when they were talking about the U.S. economy, both parties, both guests that they had on there were talking about what? How the economy is bouncing back and doing well. It's performing better than expected. We know that's a lie because we listen. I know that's a lie because I listened to Pete Navarro on Steve Bannon's show. Pete Navarro is an economist. We're headed towards stagflation. That's inflation plus recession. But no, on the Washington Journal, where they have 2 points of view, they don't even have like Pete Navarro, another point of view. They are so point, counterpoint. And at one point, the Washington Journal used to have a Democrat and Republican on at the same time for point, counterpoint. They don't even do that anymore. They just have people who have the same point of view regarding an issue. And it's always against Trump. It's always pro-establishment. It's always what the White House, what the Bidens, what the Democratic Party is pushing. Brian Lamb should be ashamed. I should write him an email or a letter and let him know that, listen, the Washington Journal has gone down the toilet. It's no good. And none of the media is any good. It's just so disappointing. And the American people are so angry who are aware, because there's still a large swath of American electorates who aren't aware, and all they talk about is what? All they talk about is what happened last week when I was here and when I was doing the show. And it was the Oscars was being aired, and I didn't know this happened, but it's all over the internet now. What? Black on black crime has come to Hollywood. Hello? Finally, thank goodness, that's what I say, right? Cancel culture has come to Hollywood. Black on black crime has come to Hollywood. Thank goodness. So now everyone can talk about it. Because until something is sanctioned by the left, sanctioned by Hollywood, you can't talk about it. So great that black on black crime is now at the Oscars forever cemented, forever memorialized at the Oscars. It will never be played down. It will never go away. It's there cemented forever. It's a good thing, I think, right? Because we've been wanting to talk about it forever. But for black men, I hate talking about black folks because I've been talking about it since I've been here I'm headed into the 5th year. And I am tired of talking about Black America because now the issue is globalism is going to affect all America. They want American citizens to be global citizens, right? And in fact, I didn't bring the clip that I wanted to play regarding the the World Economic Forum, the woman I'm going to bring it next week, where she talks about we're all going to be involved. The new normal, the new world order, the great reset is digital currency. Excuse me, we'll all be attached. We'll all be doing our transaction by digital currency. I'll bring that clip next week. But just getting back to what I was talking about before, I don't even remember what I was talking about before. Do you, RJ? What was I? I don't remember. But I think I was talking about black on black crime. I was talking about Hillary Clinton being illegitimate, not having any credibility, and I forgot. Oh, this is what I was going to say. And I was going to say, I'm so sick of talking about black folks, even though I am a black American, right? But I'm so sick of talking about it, okay? Because I've been talking about it since I started the show. But I just want to mention this point. But for black men embracing liberal ideology for the last 7 decades, embracing the whole permissive, everything put out by the left, every idea, every premise, every theory, every notion put out by the left, but for black men embracing that for the last 7 decades, we wouldn't have a Will Smith going up on stage slapping Chris Rock. That would not have happened. Black men have been embracing the whole liberal, toxic masculinity. Feminist is the way to go. Women are queens and all that crap for 7 decades. And if black men would have stood up and say, heck no, 7 decades ago, we wouldn't have a Will Smith. Okay? But they don't stand up, and now they're whining. It's like behind the 8 ball. You're like $1 short. You're a little late because now we've moved on to globalism. We don't care about black folks anymore because they're all trying to subjugate us, including Hollywood, to being global citizens. We don't care what happens to black folks anymore. We tried to talk about it for decades and no one listened. So all these Hollywood folks who are Trump haters are behind the 8 ball. They're $1 short and a day late because we're now talking about resisting globalism. So if you're still talking about racism, white supremacy, you're kind of behind the 8 ball and nobody cares. Hello? We've moved on to what the World Economic Forum is trying to do to American citizens now. That's where we are now, right? Am I right, RJ? He says thumbs up. This is who cares what happens to Will Smith? The man is he's like and the whole internet is on it. Like, who cares? This guy is, and initially I thought that was staged, right? I thought it was staged. But now I'm convinced it's not because I've listened to quite a bit about it and he's gonna suffer some consequences. In fact, he's already been kicked out of the academy. But everyone is against it. So good, finally, the Hollywood left is against black on black crime. Finally, after finally, hey, you're a little late. You know what I'm saying, Hollywood? And the other thing, who cares about Hollywood who pushes degradation and debauchery and huh? I'm sorry? Oh, okay. And degeneration and all that. Who cares about Hollywood, right? Am I right? No one cares. But everyone on the internet, let me tell you, and this is what my group is always behind the eight ball and always a dollar short and a day late. Always. They never know what is going down. They're still talking about something that is no one cares. The majority of people don't care because why? Because of inflation. And we're headed towards recession. And who cares about a very, very wealthy man and his personal life, who's gone public, and his personal issues? All of that stuff should have been kept private. Nobody cares. It's private and personal, and your wife made it public, okay? At going with her Red Talk show or whatever, Red Table Talk show. No one cares. No one who's serious, because it's simply gossip. And whatever happens to this mega rich black man, nobody cares. He has enough money to go and get therapy to fix anything that's wrong with him. Americans are suffering because of inflation, and they know they're headed towards recession. And we got 400,000 illegal aliens coming towards the border, okay? So we could care less about a celebrity throwing a temper tantrum. Okay, no one cares. That's their personal business. Don't bring it public. Don't weigh us down with this crap. We don't care. And everything about the left is a slippery slope and has been for decades. They've been pushing vaccine. These celebrities, okay, were pushing vaccines, which we know are no good, and it's a poison, and mask mandates and mask wearing, which aren't effective. These Hollywood celebrities with all their money were pushing these things on the American people. So we don't care. We could care less, okay? Because they don't care about us. They never push the right thing. They never talk about the wrong thing. They're politically correct, and political correctness has destroyed Black America. So why do we care? And that's how I feel about that. So there are and I just said it, and that's it. So there are a few other things that I want to mention that I put in my show notes. I mentioned the fact that the FEC has fined Hillary Clinton. Listen, these Clintons, I just can't stand them. Okay, so they're still talking, and I still can't believe they're on the public stage. Both Hillary and Bill. It's like, what? Why are we even discussing them? It's as if she's going to run again. You know, she's priming us. She's getting ready to run again. Let's hope not, right? So anyway, there's a report in Gateway Pundit. Is this Gateway Pundit that says that this is in the Western Journal. Biden administration is considering pulling health care from veterans to treat illegal aliens. You see, this is the problem. And this is what I want to talk about. Everything with the left is a slippery slope. First we gave them gay marriage, and look where we are now. Where are we now? We're at the point where they're considered, this is the civil rights issue for the far left is what? What is the civil rights issue? It's transgenders' rights. You see, who is it? Caitlyn Jenner. Bruce Jenner is now going to be a commentator on Fox. There are a few other articles. Oh, this is a hospital in Liverpool says that it asks all patients under the age of 30, regardless of how they identify, if they can be pregnant. Hospital is asking men if they're pregnant before taking scans as the least intrusive way to be safe. You see? So there's a group, transgender rights are now the new civil rights. How did that become an issue? This is that slippery slope that we're talking about. You see, we shouldn't even approve gay marriage, okay? That shouldn't have happened, ever. Whenever that, and it was Stephen Breyer, okay, he's resigning, leaving the Supreme Court. I believe he's a homosexual, if you want to be if you want to hear the truth. But how is gay marriage? We started with gay marriage. They started with gay marriage. Now on every show on cable TV, there's a gay couple. It's seeping into Disney now. And not only is it gay, but now it's transgender. And then after transgender, it's pedophilia. This is why what's the woman who's running, who's being nominated for the Supreme Court to take Stephen Breyer's place? What's her name? Ketanji Brown Jackson. What is she saying now? She doesn't know what a woman is. She doesn't want to define a woman. We all should be, and this is the thing, we didn't discuss, these issues weren't discussed in elementary school. Did you discuss your gender and sexual proclivities or interest in elementary school? Were they discussed? They weren't discussed when I was in elementary school or even junior high school. Now it's a big deal. Now it's an issue. What are your gender, what is your sexual interest? And teachers want to discuss these things to elementary school kids. They want to discuss about their partner and them being gender fluid, you see. And let me tell you another thing. You can always look at the children of parents and see how the parents are, right? So when you look at Will and Jada's kids who are gender fluid, I think both, don't quote me on it, but I'm assuming when a man wears a skirt, maybe he's gender fluid, right? So the son wears a skirt. Not necessarily, but that's so inappropriate. I think a man that's firmly within his masculinity is not going to be wearing skirts. So you can look at the children and say, well, there's something going on here that may not be kosher when you see the kids from the parents. There's something going on here, and this is their personal business, and we don't care because they're multimillionaires and they can fix it with money, no? But this is the question. Can't everything be fixed with money? You would think, if you've got problems, don't you think if you have enough money you can get it fixed? Do you think, RJ? I mean, you could go and get therapy to get that fixed if you have a problem with something. That's what I'm thinking. And as much money as the Smiths have, Will Smith and Jada, whatever problem they have, I think they can pay to get it fixed. You know what I'm saying? People who don't even have money fix their problems one way or another, right? They figure out how to get healthy and not take it out on everybody and display to everyone in the public what their problems are. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to express. How immature is that? It's so immature. And it's something else that I heard Jada said, because I was reading all the comments and looking at the videos. It says she doesn't like boundaries. And that's so not liking and accepting boundaries is so immature, so dysfunctional, and typical of the left. Because you see, back in the 90s, we had illegal aliens coming in, right? And we said, we got to stop that. Now, decades later, Biden is talking about giving illegal aliens the health care from veterans and also supplying them with cell phones so that they can call in. So, I mean, what is that about? You see how everything is a slippery slope? This is why never give the left an inch. Never. We have enough evidence, we know enough history to know that if you give the left an inch, they'll take a mile. And it never works out for the betterment of America and Americans. And we don't go for that. We're not going to go from that. Why don't we take a listen to, I have a clip now of, do you have the clip with Laura Logan? I wanted to play this last week, but we didn't have it. But this is, yeah, the Lara Logan. Let's play that. This is Lara Logan, and she's talking about Ukraine. And actually, after I play this, I want to say a few things about what Zelensky said about this right-wing, I don't want to call it a right-wing group. This group, I think they're called Azov. Why don't we play Lara Logan?
Great to have you this morning. I wanted to start with this breaking news overnight that it appears, and there you are, you popped up for us. It's so great to see you. The Daily Mail has a very interesting story that's saying that Vladimir Putin essentially may be running out of bullets, that he might have a week and a half, 2 weeks max. He's losing warplanes, tanks, all the rest of it. He obviously went into this thinking he was going to bulldoze his way through Ukraine. He's obviously caused a lot of destruction. Don't want to minimize the fact there's over 2 million refugees. But this has not gone as well as Vladimir Putin expected.
I don't buy it for a second, Ed, I'll be honest with you. I really think that there's so much misinformation. We've never really seen anything like it. I mean, I've been covering wars now for 35 years, and I have never seen people with their nails done in the Ukrainian flag, right? I mean, we're being corralled into this box where we either have to hate Vladimir Putin and believe everything evil that's said about him and love Ukraine, and there's no in between. And that reminds me a lot of you're either, a white supremacist, or you go with the Democrat narrative on everything under the sun. So Vladimir Putin knew exactly what he was doing when he went into Ukraine. The Russian military isn't perfect. They, for example, I've spoken to multiple defense specialists and intelligence specialists from a Defense Intelligence Agency who've studied the Russian military for years. They do have a difficulty mounting complex air operations because they do very little training hours in comparison to, for example, the United States air assets, right, our fighter jet pilots. But Russia is not struggling. What Russia has done from the very beginning has been very strategic. They didn't go straight to Kiev. They went to all those bioweapons laboratories that are scattered all over the country. Some of them they built, so they know where they are. They've known where they are since the Soviet Union, because under the Defense Threat Reduction Program, we went in after the fall of the Soviet Union and supposedly turned those facilities from bioweapons labs into public health labs. Although, these days it's hard to believe anything that our leaders tell us, because they've lied about COVID, they lied about Russia collusion, they lied about the Ukraine impeachment trial, and there's so much more going on in Ukraine that nobody is talking about. You see such dishonesty when it comes to the history of Ukraine. You see dishonesty when it comes to the Azov Battalion, which is funded by the U.S. and NATO. I mean, you can find pictures of them online holding up the NATO flag and the swastika at the same time. Their own emblem contains the black sun of the occult, which was a Nazi SS emblem. And it also contains the sideways, lightning insignia of the SS. I mean, this is on throughout the Ukrainian military. You can see that black sun of the occult on their body armor, even on the female soldiers who are paraded in front of the world as being, such an example of Ukraine's independence and spirit and nobility. Even they are wearing the black sun of the occult. And, the White House wants you to believe, well, this doesn't matter, it's just a small number of troops. It's not true. The Azov Battalion has been murdering its way through eastern Ukraine. Yeah. We don't want to admit this. This was why Crimea voted for independence. This is why Crimea wanted to be with Russia. Because we in the media, in the Western media and in the West, won't acknowledge the reality of what's gone on. Western Ukraine backed the Nazis. It was a headquarters for the Nazi SS. The CIA under Alan Dulles actually gave immunity from prosecution to the Nazis of Ukraine.
Okay, we broke, and we're going to come back because we're going to go to a break. I'm going to tweet that, and it's also in my show notes. It's the Azov Battalion. I'm going to tweet that. Also, go to my website. It's in my show notes. Also, go and sign up for my website newsletter. I have a news post on cancel culture, a new blog on cancel culture. How much longer do we have now? Oh, I have 15 seconds before we go to break. So I have 15 seconds before I go to break. So when we come back from the break, we'll finish playing Lara Logan, finishing that bit about Ukraine, what's going on there. We should know about this Azov Battalion. They're neo-Nazis. Their flag is the death cult. We'll be back. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Kathleen Wells. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Let's continue playing that excerpt, the audio from with Lara Logan.
Because we in the media, in the Western media and in the West, won't acknowledge the reality of what's gone on. Western Ukraine backed the Nazis. It was a headquarters for the Nazi SS. The CIA
you're-
under Alan Dulles
Yeah.
actually gave immunity from prosecution to the Nazis of Ukraine from the Nuremberg trials. So there's a long history of the United States and our intelligence agencies funding and arming Nazis in Ukraine. These are not like new neo-Nazi groups that sprung up. These are the actual Nazis from the Second World War, who, if you go back to the Nuremberg trials, said that they were planning for a 1,000-year Reich. And so you have to really wonder as you look at this, when you know that the CIA sponsored the color revolution in Ukraine in 2013 and 14, that they selected Ukraine's leaders, go to Victoria Nuland's leaked phone conversation where she and the U.S. ambassador are deciding who can lead Ukraine. I mean, there's as much interference here as you could possibly imagine before you even get to Hunter Biden, Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry, and Mitt Romney, and all of their children who are employed, who earn millions from Ukrainian gas companies.
Yeah, you are pointing, pardon me, to a real credibility crisis for our leaders. I want to let Karen Turk jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the fact that President Zelensky is Jewish, and I don't know exactly how this factors in, but there's some very interesting points in what you're saying. And looking at this, you could think it's political theatrics. You made a very good point at the beginning that you think that Putin is in control. And I actually want to play something that Jen Psaki said, because it seems that the White House is actually echoing that sentiment. Watch this.
Well, the end game is really a question for President Putin. We have completely crushed his economy. We have provided military assistance, humanitarian assistance to the Ukrainians, enabling them to fight back for far longer than the Russian leadership anticipated. And again, he has to determine what the path forward looks like for him. Thanks, everyone.
He's determining what this looks like, and I think that's a lot of what you said, Laura. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, what you just watched.
What troubles me about the moment that we're in is that we have such a selective and a narrow reading of history. President Zelensky may be Jewish, but he's not the only one in this who suffered during the Second World War, whose ancestors suffered, right? I mean, look at Putin. How many relatives did he lose in the siege of St. Petersburg? People don't know their history. They don't know what made Vladimir Putin. And I'm not I'm not defending him. I don't need to defend Vladimir Putin. My job as a journalist is to try to understand what is the truth here. I don't like being lied to. And we're being lied to on an epic scale. When we're told your only choice is you have to be 100% with Zelensky, who's a puppet, who you can find on the internet in black stilettos and leather pants, with shirtless, doing a spoof Dancing with the Stars kind of entertainment video. That's a mock of a Ukrainian group that does this kind of satanic occult type of music video. And I mean, Zelensky was selected like so many of our leaders. And honestly, with big tech and with election fraud these days, we don't know how many leaders all around the world have been selected for us and weren't actually voted in. But what we do know is that there are increasing problems with technology and the digitization of our world. Because look at what's happening with COVID. Look at what has happened globally. We are fighting the same battles all over the world. To pretend that this war is about Russia and Ukraine is just a barefaced lie. If Putin has been warning for 15 years that he is not going to stand by while the globalists take over the world, build bioweapons facilities and whatever else they're doing in Ukraine, Ukrainian oligarchs. Ukraine has been a center of money laundering for many of the leaders in this country. For how long? Billions of US dollars have been laundered through Ukraine, and we say nothing about it. These are our tax dollars. I mean, before the impeachment trial, had you ever heard of anyone in the United States, I mean, us bringing in foreign governments to the White House for anti-corruption training? I mean, does nobody question these things? Why do we not question them? We have an idiot like Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, who goes at the impeachment trial and sits there as a lieutenant colonel. He didn't even make colonel. And he's telling the president of the United States what his policy should be. You have a traitor in the form of Maria Yovanovitch, who was Obama's ambassador, who's telling Ukrainian government officials, don't listen to the will of the American people. Don't listen to the election results. We are the true leaders of America. I mean, and then people object when the woman isn't even fired. She's given a cushy job for life at Georgetown University at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer. And we're told that the President of the United States cannot say to his foreign counterparts, that we want you to look into something. But Joe Biden, he can withhold as much aid as he wants to. I mean, there's so much hypocrisy and dishonesty here, and Ukraine is at the center of it all. Go back to Russia collusion. Go to Alexander Chalupa. Go to Eric Karamella, the whistleblower who went to work for Adam Schiff, who wasn't really a whistleblower, and all those corrupt people in the deep state. And you know what? The deep state isn't a theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's an actual deep state. Look up the SES, the Senior Executive Service, because when that bureaucracy was ushered into law in the United States of America, that's when we got a bunch of unelected bureaucrats pulling the strings behind the scenes. And these are the people that keep lying to us.
Absolutely. And pardon me, we've got a live chat where we're streaming on Getter, for example, and I'm watching it as you're talking. People are talking about how you're dropping truth bombs and you're a real journalist. And I know that, having worked alongside you for many, many years when you're at CBS and many other places. And maybe they didn't want to hear the truth, but you're dropping those truth bombs now. Unfortunately, we got to hit a break right now. We'd love to have you back in the days ahead. We love having you on. Lara Logan, thanks for joining us on Real America's Voice.
Thank you so much.
Logan, a real journalist,
we'll have her back.
dropping truth bombs. That's what we want, truth bombs. That's why this is called the Naked Truth Report. If it's not the truth, I'm not interested. If you're afraid of offending people, you can't tell the truth. So we never talk about this Azov Battalion, and A-Z-O-V, Azov Battalion. Brett Baer asked Zelensky about them, and he says, hey, they are what they are. What does that mean? The truth is always nuanced, okay? And something about the left, what the left does, they're always stark, white or black. Like, for instance, Ryan Gosling just said, women are better than men. You see what? Women are better than men. It's this whole issue about toxic masculinity that has made the left, that has made Ryan Gosling and has made Will Smith hate masculinity. These are guys, okay? We have 2 and 3 generations of males raised without fathers because of the left, because of feminism. And we need fathers so that boys grow up, and, Judge Joe Brown talks about it on the show, so that boys grow up to understand what it means to be a man, okay? And a man does not go up on stage and slap a guy because the guy said something, risking his whole career, risking everything that he's worked for over the years, over the decades, risking everything because a comedian said something that may have hurt the feelings of his wife. The comedian may not even known that Jada had alopecia, assuming she does. We don't even know if that's true because everything on TV is a lie. Okay? So we don't even know if she has it or not. But the point of it is, whether or not she has it, Chris Rock was working. He was doing his job. Okay? He's a comedian. That's his job. And the joke wasn't even that bad, right? And even if it were bad, so what? You're not going to walk on eggshells around adults, and particularly adults with millions of dollars whose feelings should not be hurt over anything. Yeah, money can't buy you class, but when you have money, you should at least be able to control yourself, or at least pay someone to help you figure out how to control your emotions. That's the one thing about being a man. That's the one thing about masculinity, is that men know how to control their emotions. Men are offended all the time. And, I was looking at that movie East by You, and I don't know if you're familiar with that movie East by You, and there was a scene in there where the woman was having an affair with a guy, and the guy came to the house and shot the husband. So when you get into these kinds of personal situations and entanglements, people lose their lives or end up in jail or prison over some bull crap. It's like shooting someone over tennis shoes. This is a level of immaturity that is not acceptable for adults who can't control. Adults are supposed to be able to control their emotions because they can weigh things, and particularly men. Men learn how to control their emotions from their fathers. But now we've got 2 and 3 generations of men that weren't raised with fathers, and so they're in touch with their femininity and their feelings. Am I right? It's a terrible thing. I was going to play a clip. Why don't I play a part of that clip? Because it's long, I won't play the whole thing. But this is Jason Whitlock. I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 11 minutes. I'll play a little bit of it. But I think he's so on point about what's been going down with the left and how the whole Will Smith, Jada Pinkett, Chris Rock triangle or whatever happened. Actually, there's another guy that Jada was having an affair with, some young boy who is the boyfriend of her son's, who is a friend of her son's, younger than her. But that's another thing. They are public with their private information, and that's not appropriate. Who does that? Why would you go? That shows you they're out of touch with reality. They're not in touch with themselves, and they're suffering despite all their money. Because who goes public with their private information like that? What adult does that and doesn't know to have boundaries? But anyway, let's take a listen to Jason Whitlock touch on it. We won't play the whole thing, and I'll tell you when to stop.
Let's go to the smartest man in sports, Royce White, and we'll see if we can get his take on Will Smith, Chris Rock, Jada Pinkett, the whole, everything we saw last night. I'm trying to give all of our contributors an opportunity about the shot heard round the world. We just heard from Shamika. Royce, what ran through your mind? Let me start here. What do you think of the way Chris Rock handled it? I got to be honest, my initial thoughts were someone walks up and strikes me, I don't think I'm going to have the self-control that Chris Rock had, but that might be because I'm 3 times bigger than Chris Rock, and maybe he's just more self-aware. But yeah. What was your reaction to how Chris Rock handled it?
Well, thanks for having me back, first of all. I got to just lay this thing out. And, you know, this isn't a little issue. You know, this isn't a joke. This, in fact, might be the issue. Right. This is the decay of the West on full display for the entire world to see. That's what we're dealing with here. This is the ancient conflict between men and women and the modern conflict, a crisis of femininity and the crisis of masculinity. And I know many people seem to be having problems defining what a man and woman are. But as a man myself, this was offensive. I was offended by what Will Smith did. You know, I'm not a pacifist. I'm not one of these people that believes violence is never justified. I've been in my own fair share of skirmishes and scuffles in sports and basketball and things like that, over the years. But as a Christian, I do believe in temperance. And I believe that intemperance has become one of the hallmark characteristics of liberalism and wokeism. To answer your question about Chris, I was very proud of the way he handled himself, all things considered. I didn't think what he said was that joke was in that bad of taste. And let's just be real here. All of these Hollywood figures know that when they sign up to go to these award shows, that there's often going to be a comedian who's the host who will take his shot at them personally in the context of good fun. For the show, if you're in the front row or if you're very popular, things of that sort. But let's go back to I want to go back to the physical, because the physical is what people are trying to draw us away from, the physical order of the universe and of humanity. I have to go here, okay? I know what's trying to be communicated when a man goes to slap another man. He's trying to say, I don't have to exert my full physical force because I don't believe you to be a real threat. And even more so, what he's trying to say, I'm not going to ball up my fist and use my knuckles, which is a more damaging structure. And what he's trying to say even more so is that I don't have to use any more force on you than I would on a woman. And that does draw very distinctual lines between men and women that we've observed culturally throughout history, right? This is why you see it portrayed that a man slaps a man slaps a man who he doesn't believe is a real man. You see this portrayed or played out in a movie, let's say like Tombstone, where Kurt Russell slaps Billy Bob Thornton, or in Humphrey Bogart in the Maltese Falcon, right? So there is a cultural narrative around what it means when a man slaps another man. It means I'm exerting full, absolute physical dominance over you. For Will Smith, when you go to strike a man and he's completely unexpecting, his hands are behind his back, he bends forward a little bit, his chin is exposed, and he's not looking, and you get the full weight and mechanics and body motion of a right hook, and that man doesn't stumble, he laughs, and actually keeps his wit about him to turn a comedic phrase out of it, you're a bitch. Will Smith was the woman in that situation. And here's why I think that's important to observe. I don't think it was by accident that he acted like a woman in that situation. I don't think that it was a failure of his masculinity so much as it was an embrace of femininity. And that's what we see here in America and in the West, that femininity, the crisis of femininity, has obscured what it means to be a man. He intended to slap Chris Rock the way a woman would slap a man. And the reason why, Jason, and this is the real issue we have to pin down, the reason why is because for him, the natural order is broken. The natural order is God to man to woman and child. In his clan, the natural order is woman to effeminate man and gender fluid children. And it's a breeding ground for neurosis and then psychosis. We're looking at a man whose mental health has deteriorated.
Royce, you've said a mouthful, as always, but maybe the biggest mouthful. You have taken, because I think you're dead on accurate. This is why I love having you on the show. You give me things to think about. And so I want you to expound on why you think this incident between Will Smith and Chris Rock, which I think you properly framed. Now go ahead and explain why you think this is a symptom of what's going on in overall America, and this applies not just to Will Smith, but American culture in general.
I think that the intersectional, woke, liberal, neoliberal politics are obscuring what it means to be a man. And really, they're trying to degrade and shame people for what it means to be a man traditionally. And the reason behind that, the strategy behind that is when men lose that traditional sense of masculinity, of primal nature and adherence to the natural and physical order, you're much easier to enslave. That's the reality here. If we can turn men into women, we can enslave the common people with greater ease. And we're seeing that happen across the West right now from this globalist agenda. And I hate to always have to go back to that during my segments, but it is the out in front, blatant agenda that's on the rise and on the move. In Hollywood specifically, here's the kicker. Hollywood is the main promoter of this to obscure gender, traditional sex roles, the natural order. They want the natural order to become an arbitrary sort of social cultural construct that they can bend and leverage against people or use to prop people up whenever they feel necessary at their own whim. And that in and of itself is a heresy against God. For them to be able to define what a man or woman is completely a symptom of atheism and radical anti-God sentiment. And I see that people like Will Smith, who are very invested in how Hollywood views him, that is being run by this neoliberal, feminist, beta male, time's up sort of culture. His emotion in the speech after this incident was the telltale sign of complete mental health, disarray. I mean, I think that he actually believed that it was honorable to get up and defend Jada in that situation in some respect. But he's lost all sense of what it means to be a man and how to defend a woman's honor in a way that's truly masculine and manly. If he really felt that comment or joke was that offensive, and there's some unknown circumstance that he and Jada know, or Jada and Chris may know, and he thought that made that comment uncouth, he should have took him in the back and slapped him. But to do it in front of everybody, to me, is a sign of how a woman scorned, let's say, would go on social media and put out the text messages or screenshots of a man that she's dealing with to expose him and bring herself down in the process. That's not how men conduct themselves. It's a disgrace. That's offensive to real men, how he handled himself. And it's a very poor sign of leadership for the generation of men who are coming up who may look up to him.
Do you think Will Smith is aware that he's just a pawn and a tool in a agenda to fully emasculate men, or is he just buttons are being pressed and he doesn't really know? Because I see a man with a full-blown identity crisis. He was raised with some Christian values. He's gotten involved with a woman that, 20 years ago, whenever they first got together, he's really physically attracted to, and she's talked him out of all of his values. And now he's just at war with himself and has gone haywire? Or do you think he's actually in on the plot and good with the plot and scheme and knows his role and what role he needs to play in order to advance the agenda you're talking about?
Well, I appreciate the framework, because I think an important question of our time, especially for our leaders and people in the public eye, is who's ignorant to it and who's in on it. It's hard for me to tell at this time in our society and with this individual specifically, because I do think he is royalty in Hollywood. He's probably very initiated in certain cultural agendas that even other actors and actresses may not be initiated in. However, I can't in good faith say that he's completely in on it and understands the depth of what a person like Klaus Schwab plans to do from Davos, Switzerland. But I will say this, the net result is the same. And this is where the profundity of Christianity really comes into clarity. When you become a Judeo-Buddhist, Scientologist, wokeist, neoliberal, you're at the behest of the cultural winds. You're an easy target to be pushed and prodded and moved around the board as a pawn. When you have a good Judeo-Christian foundation, it's much harder to manipulate and use you as a pawn. And that's my firm belief. This is Judeo-Buddhism. This is the Kabbalah, the Hollywood Kabbalah, Buddhist, woke, Scientology motif playing out in real time in front of the world. And it's a breeding ground for neurosis and psychosis and suicide and addiction and identity crisis, moral crisis, spiritual crisis, etc.
Oh, that was a mouthful. That was Royce White. Royce White was on with Jason Whitlock. Jason Whitlock has a wonderful podcast called Fearless. Royce White is running in Minnesota for Ilhan Omar's district. Why don't I take a call now from Ben? We just have a few minutes, Ben. Hi, welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. I think what's happening here, the problem is not the left, it's actually the right. The right is very confused. They don't have true values. They scream that they're on the right side of things. But in reality, they're the ones who have the problems, because they keep changing positions, they keep changing and their views in order to play along these games that the left play. I give an example. Why did they have to accept the word gay to stand for the meaning of homosexual? Why did they need that?
Well, I do agree. I do agree that the right accepts the semantics, the words, embraces the words of the left, and they don't need to accept that. But we know the right believes in traditional marriage. We know the right believes in
if you look at the right, you go back 100 years, 200 years, it's not the same as it is today. It has completely changed.
Okay.
What we view as traditional today is completely off the charts. You go back 100, 200 years ago.
Well, but we know the right. Listen, the right has problems. I agree with you, but the answer isn't the left.
I understand, but you have to focus on fixing the right. Forget about the left. Everybody knows the left is crazy. There's no question there. The question is, how do you fix the right? That's where the solution lies.
Well, I think it starts with
Everybody knows, and I'll tell you one history. I'll tell you about history. The next shoe that's going to fall is going to be bestiality. When you get to this far left in history, the next phase is bestiality. Mark my words. 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, That's where we're headed.
Well, I think transhumanism is where we're headed. Transhumanism, where you transcend the human. But I agree with you that the right embraces the narratives and the dialogue and the semantics of the left and the words and terms. And I've been saying that from on my show since the beginning. We should not embrace their terms. We should not start saying people of color. We should not start saying, illegal immigrants. We should say illegal aliens. We should say Black Americans. We should say Latinos. We shouldn't say people of color. But the right does embrace, because the left dominates the media, you see. And so they shouldn't embrace their terms. I agree with you. This is the Naked Truth. Thanks for calling in, Ben. Call in again. I think that check out Fearless, the podcast with Jason Whitlock. He's got some heavy stuff that he talks about. This is the Naked Truth Report. The People's Convoy is headed back to California. So I'm going to be hopefully joining them and doing some more interviews with truckers. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.